This show is a member of the Planetside Podcast Network. To learn more, go to planetsidepodcasts.com.
Welcome to I Shouldn't Have to Say This, the podcast where we discuss topics we believe requires critical and nuanced thinking. If you want to get in touch with us, you can email us at saythiscast@gmail.com or follow us on Twitter at saythiscast, and go to saythiscast.com if you want to hear previous episodes. Hello, party podcast people. My name is Nicole, and I'm joined here today by my co-host, Genre.
Hello?
Okay.
I don't know. I tried different things.
Yeah. We keep it fresh around here.
We do.
Anyways, on to the anatomy of a Kickstarter.
Oh.
On Kickstarter, to solicit the public for money for a project, you post a description of that project on Kickstarter. It's basically a pitch, accompanied by some sort of video. Most Kickstarters that make money get video. It's not a strict requirement, but almost all funded projects have one. Then you come up with a set of rewards for different pledge levels. You set a funding goal and a time frame for your project. Kickstarter staff approve that project and maybe give you some feedback, and then your project goes live. If you don't hit your funding goal in that time frame, you don't get anything. Kickstarter then takes 5% of the final take, and the company is off to the races. Ignoring bad faith actors who misuse Kickstarter knowingly, the folks take the money and they go and make a project. This crowdfunding form means anybody can raise funds, even if it's just to have a potato salad party. If people are willing to pay for it, then you can be funded. The project is then completed and people get their Kickstarter rewards, oftentimes the end project at a slightly reduced price, if that. And that's a fine process, and I'm happy when it goes to plan. I was a donor on some Kickstarters long ago, and most of them did happen. I got a Pebble, which I love and miss, a few games, etc. But as we all know, Kickstarters don't always go perfectly well. And that's what I want to talk about today. Now, I've gotten this far into this episode, a couple of minutes, I think, and I need to come clean to you about something.
Uh-oh.
I really fucking hate Kickstarter. I think that it is a stupid and dumb way to raise money for projects that leaves donors with a lot of risk and really about zero upside or oversight for them. And for the people who are taking that money, I mean, perfect. You get the money and you don't have to do near anything that you would have to do if you were looking for a formal investor. But therein lies the problem. Kickstarter is a fundamentally flawed system. When you look at it, the average Kickstarter page contains only a couple of things. That flashy feature video, a cool, quippy description of the finished product, and some cute photos of the people employed at the company. Maybe even concept art, but very infrequently will they have even demos for games, and even less so for other projects will they ever have anything tangible for donors. They'll maybe have some stretch goals, and then maybe they'll have a super simple breakdown of where that money goes, but not usually. And you'll note from that description that there's not a lot of substance there, is there? If you were an investor on Shark Tank or some shit, and some dude walked in there with their big chungus idea and asked for $100,000 and said, yeah, here is how I'll allocate the money, you might ask them, and why do you think that manufacturing only costs $25,000? And then they'd need to explain their thinking, and you can evaluate if that sounded right or do some research to corroborate that claim. On Kickstarter, the source is LOL, trust me, bro. And that shit sucks. And that's because when you get money to a Kickstarter, it's called becoming a backer, but really you're giving a no strings attached donation. Let's not fuck around here.
Yeah.
When projects go wrong, people have a tendency to believe that this is the result of bad people funding projects they never had the intention of completing. And while I believe that this has happened before, I don't think that it's what happens most of the time. Much more often, a really passionate product person will raise money for a project that they think is good, and it will be a good idea. And then they'll do it, and it'll be the simple mismanagement of money that leads to the end of the project. They'll say, I think that this will cost this much, and they realize that it's double that. Or maybe it takes longer than they thought all the time it takes longer than they thought. Let's be real. And sometimes these fuckers will allocate like $5,000 towards something that costs like $5,000 because they're inexperienced or there's some manner of disconnect. And you as a potential donor have no access to that thought process. Where this is a problem for like donors on Kickstarter, it really wouldn't be a problem to a proper investor. Investors have a certain assurances that if something isn't profitable, they have some sort of recourse. For instance, if I say I'm going to make shoes and they're going to be made in Italy and each stitch on the sole will be made by like an Italian child's hands, and then I manufacture that shit in like mass manufacturing in China with machines, an investor could fuck with my life because I lied to them directly. On Kickstarter, that's just kind of par for the course. Similarly, if an investor is wise enough or they don't have much faith in a project, they can structure an investment so that no matter how the project goes, they're guaranteed a percentage or all of their money back. You see this a lot on Shark Tank because those projects are half-baked at best usually. They'll say, yeah, I'll invest, let's just use a round number, $10,000, and you can pay me back at this percent interest until I get my money back, and then we can move to some other more reasonable arrangement. This is something that exists for investors. And if they see shit going south, they can take their money and they can go somewhere else. Kickstarters are kind of an unknown quantity. You never know where the money goes, you can't get your money out, and in most cases, you have zero control over the end project. If midway through the development of a video game, a team decides that their open world tactics game with Pokemon elements and big titty anime girls is too ambitious, they can decide to make Pac-Man 3.69 and their donors have zero recourse. At the end of that project, if your reward was just to get, like, you know, your big titty anime girl game, I mean, now you get Pac-Man 3.69, and that's that. Their reputations might be ruined, but reputations are easily salvaged on the internet, and you can't get your fucking money back. That's a whole thing on Kickstarter. That's not one of the things that you're entitled to as a donor. Or say you donate to a game called Ooblets, just for example, I mean, there's no game called Ooblets, and you want to play that game on Steam, and then Ooblets decides that they're going to sign an exclusivity deal with Epic because they want to make more money for development costs because they underestimated the money that development takes. You can really go fuck yourself for all they care and the law. And Kickstarter, the platform. And when the only return that you were looking for out of your investments was playing Ooblets on Steam, this is a pretty big hit for an individual donor. I mean, a lot of people don't want to play on Epic, right? Well, you can go fuck yourself in the eyes of everybody involved. It's a pretty raw deal.
I was just checking my Kickstarter, just curious, and there is a I backed a game that was backed in like 2016.
Yeah,
I think. And they still, it's still coming, I guess.
Yeah.
They have to, like, people on Kickstarter have no obligation to actually give updates on their process. Like, you can, like, there are some Kickstarters that you don't hear anything about them, and then one day they're finished, or one day they just return the money or something. You don't have to give product
Absolutely.
updates.
And they don't have to return your money, by the way. They can just pretend like it's in development forever. It's not, or like, even if they end development and they say, like, we can't do anything, LOL, like, your reputation takes a hit, but, like, flat out in the eyes of Kickstarter, you don't need to give that money back. I always think about this one game called Project Phoenix that I backed way back when I was a teenager, which is another problem. You can back shit as a teenager. But I backed that game, and all they had was some art, and they said everybody involved in this project has a lot of experience. They worked on Final Fantasy. Look at all these talented people. Wow, wow, wow. I think that, like, I was a teenager, and I'm 26 now, so you can do the math there. And I wasn't, like, an older teenager either. That game's not out, and the guy who was behind that game, the company, has made, like, 2 other games. And from all indications, all the money from that game went into those other shit-ass games, and they weren't even good. So...
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That is
I'm
astounding.
never getting
I
my
guess.
$15 back, which I don't care about, but it's more of the thought that counts. And I know that there are people who made more substantial donations, and also weren't shit-ass 15-year-old kids or something. And that game still isn't out. And the guy who made 2 other games, and he said, if these games don't well, I'll never finish Project Phoenix. So that's the type of shit that you can expect sometimes. And a lot of people think that he's like a huckster who never intended on finishing the game. I prefer to be charitable. I just think he's an idiot who didn't know what he was doing and had a really shaky plan and it didn't go anywhere. But that's my problem, is that like I can't see my money back. And I know for a fact that people donated larger sums than like $15, which was the planned price of the game at the end of it. Games are really disappointing when they come out on Steam or when they are on Kickstarter, because a lot of the times when you look at the idea for a game before development happens, they're way cooler than they are after development, which is part of why I hate hype. I mean, Cyberpunk 2077. But that's just kind of the problem. And ideas are way better than final results. And when you're backing a Kickstarter, you're not really backing a business plan or a project that you can see. There are no prototypes. You're backing an idea. Everything that comes between there is fucking pixie dust. And that's not a good look. One of the things that bothers me about Kickstarter specifically is how a lot of the times the narrative will be, we had to turn to Kickstarter because we did a round of investing and the big guys were trying to shoot us down because they wouldn't let us make our game, and they were just the big guy getting in the way of innovation. Our idea is just too cool and unique for these traditional investors. Let me tell you a secret, y'all.
Uh-oh.
A lot of the times, these kids show up, they have a business plan, their business plan sucks ass, they haven't made a cent of money, and they have no plans of doing so. It's just, imagine the most pathetic pitch on Shark Tank. And then they get ass pain that it didn't work out when they went to real people who have vetting procedures, and they couldn't make their disclosures or they weren't prepared, and then they go straight to Kickstarter because they know that they don't have to provide any of that shit. And then they get funded because the idea is great. It's just they're not the right person to take that through to the conclusion.
I love it when people want to actually make an actual product, like a physical thing, right? I backed a Kickstarter like years and years ago for an add-on device for a phone.
Was it the membrane for buttons?
No, it was okay. So it was I had an Android phone at the time that didn't accept expandable memory. And there was this thing that you could plug into the phone, like this case that you could put the phone in, and you would have a slot for expandable memory. Wow. So it was a really good idea, and I was super into it. So I backed it, and throughout the process, people were like, what is happening? What is happening? And like part of it, like he was in Australia and it was during like the flooding like years ago, if you remember that. So that was part of it. So we were like, okay. But then someone dug up a picture of this dude with like a sweet new car, and people were like, what the hell is this? He's like, oh, it's a gift from my parents. It's like, okay. But the real thing is he didn't actually do the legwork well for, manufacturing costs and supply chains and resources and raw materials and all of this stuff. It was always, it's more expensive, and that's one of the things. Like, people just don't do the research before going on Kickstarter. If you're making a game, then that is going to be resources in manpower, and it's probably
just going to take longer than you thought, and you're going to run into money troubles. So that's fairly reasonable. But like if it's like Pebble or something,
exactly.
Like Pebble failed, and it wasn't because Pebble watches were bad. They had a really, really, really well-established niche. It just wasn't a big enough one. Like, people don't care about wearables, and they had competition with they were competing with the Apple Watch. And it's just like they couldn't do it. There wasn't enough money. Fitbit made them an offer and they had to take it because they just couldn't carve out enough of a niche for like this weird e-paper watch. It doesn't mean the idea was bad. It's just like nobody backed that shit because it didn't have any longevity.
It's like only 3 people really, really wanted it.
It was actually the highest funded Kickstarter of all time, their first one. People loved the idea. It just, Pebble worked out. I got 2 great watches.
Yeah.
It just didn't have what it took to keep going because there was just, if you have like an idea and then you make I mean, this is getting into more economic theory, I guess, but if you have a really good idea and you have like a market, it's really nice to have a niche market, but that has to be enough to sustain you. You can't keep doing larger projects if you're like courting the same audience over and over again. If you sell people a watch that works longer than like your development cycle, you've run into your first problem, and then your second problem is just your market isn't large enough for what you're trying to do. Simply being a watch company isn't enough, so Pebble just pigeonholed themselves to the point that they couldn't do anything and they had to go under, which is unfortunate. In retrospect, if anybody with a brain was looking at this, they would have said like, yeah, that's the problem. That's why nobody invested in fucking Pebble. Nobody cares about wearables. Like, what the fuck? That's why Pebble's last funding round was trying to get into fitness trackers. But, you know, if you aren't Fitbit, go fuck yourself, you know?
Yeah. If you're not Fitbit, go fuck yourself.
If you're not Fitbit in the wearables world or like Apple, like, you just fucked. It's a thing. It's why Google acquired Fitbit, which is another story. Anyways, we're way off it.
I just want to mention you know, some Kickstarters do work out because
I don't. There are some good Kickstarters. So what I want to be really clear about is that there are some good Kickstarters, and I think that it's important to talk about that. So my problem with Kickstarters is you back a project and the project comes out and then you get whatever the end product was, which is just a pre-order on an idea that may or may not even happen. And you're usually working with people who aren't tested. So, you know, the ceiling of what you can get out of backing a Kickstarter is a thing that you would have purchased either fucking way, you know? And the worst that you can get is losing your money on some bullshit, knowing that some guy's gallivanting with the $1 million he took from people poorer than him in order to, like, you know, buy a fucking Bugatti or some shit. I mean, like, you know, the top of what you can expect is really minimal, and the bottom just goes into straight to hell. So that's my problem. There are Kickstarters that go well. For instance, I backed a Kickstarter from Iron Circus, I believe, is the name of the comic book store. It's run by a black woman because she runs all of her projects off of Kickstarter, and she's completed every single one for years. So, and also I know the IP and I care about it. So I'm fine. She's well tested. So, and it's also a comic.
Yeah.
So like she owns a comic book distributor. So she has a mind for the business. She already worked out the distribution shit and the manpower costs, and she has a really good grip on that. So I'm comfortable, you know, it's like $10. I don't give a fuck. It's just pre-ordering a comic. But sometimes when the amounts get larger, it gets really weird. And also, here is my general thing, and might be what I want to say. So I think that a lot of the time, socialists and people who are left wing and just like, you know, good people in general, think a lot about, you know, how to be the best people they can. And how to be like really, really accommodating and how to like be giving. And these are all really important things. But also we live under capitalism. And as long as we live under capitalism, I think that it would behoove us to understand something about its machinations. So one of the things that you should never do is give money up front for something if you're not getting any value out of that or utility. So just to bring this full circle to my problem with pre-orders as a concept. So in the early days of video games, like, you know, pre-Xbox 360, which isn't early, but, you know, like earlier than now.
Yeah, video games is
it's a young industry.
Like I'm saying before. So the early days, you know, before you could download stuff.
Before you could download stuff, when pre-orders were just getting popping. The reason why you would pre-order a game is so you could go to the store after school or work or whatever, and you knew that shit would be there. Because if you didn't, they had a certain amount, and if it was a popular game, they'd sell out. Or if it wasn't a popular game, they just wouldn't get a copy.
Exactly.
You would need to pre-order the game. You paid them up front, and you got some utility. You knew that game would be there for you. But as soon as video games and just e-commerce became a huge thing, you go online, you order your thing, you know that you're going to get it. Or, if I want to make sure, absolutely positively sure that I get a video game, I can just order that shit off of the retailer's website. And I can get it on my console, snap of my fingers, maybe a couple of hours for the download, but I know that it's going to be there because the supply is limitless. They're not going to run out of digital copies of Persona 5 Strikers. So why would I pre-order that shit? You don't get any utility other than the game that you could have bought at the time. Sometimes you get a small discount. Yeah. But my problem is that people will fucking pre-order shit years in advance or a year in advance. And as soon as you do that, you give your money away and you get nothing out of it. And guess what the developer is doing with your money? They're making money off of your money. And if you kept your money, you could be making money off of your money, even if it was just sitting in your bank account accruing 0.1 cents in interest. You could be making that fucking money. So keep your money.
Nick.
What?
Nick. You just found another way to talk about Cyberpunk 2077, didn't you?
I'm not just talking about Cyberpunk 2077. I'm talking about absolute...
I know, but you're so addicted about talking about it.
I know, but I'm talking about every video game in existence. I'm talking about I'm mostly talking about games that get pushed back after release. I'm thinking about Cyberpunk. I'm thinking about Fire Emblem 3 Houses. I'm thinking about fucking Kingdom Hearts 3. Shit that gets announced in 2017. They're it's gonna release for sure, bro. Yeah. Trust us. They push that shit back for years, and you've already given them your money, so you're kind of fucked. And usually they don't give your money back it's a nice thing to do, and it could hurt their reputation if they don't. But again, reputations don't mean shit. You can build that shit up, or people are their brains are so gnawed down by time and capitalism that they really don't care what you do to them as consumers. They'll just buy a product, head completely empty, happy to consume, which I know kind of sounds edgy, but it's the truth. So I fucking hate Kickstarter. I fucking hate pre-orders. And I just want to tell everybody, be careful with your money. Keep your money. Pay things that you need to pay for on time, but don't give it early because that's your fucking money, and you should be looking for every opportunity to make money with your money, and not give it to somebody else to do the same thing that you would have done, but for them. So yeah. And also, Kickstarter.
Oh,
here's the worst fucking part. Kickstarter sometimes will be yeah, I'm gonna go the indie route and crowdfund my thing because the big bad corporations are too stringent for us, and we just want to do it the right way, and we want to involve the community in our project. 6 months later, when that shit doesn't go right and they say, oh God, it's going to cost double, triple what we fucking thought, they'll take corporate fucking money anyway, so they'll do a seed round of funding. And then they're back to the same thing you wanted to avoid. And there's nothing that you can do. So I feel like companies that do Kickstarters should be on the hook to be proper fucking stewards of their backers' money and be held accountable to pay it back if they don't complete the product as advertised. And also, there should be more robust financial disclosures made to potential backers. Most people won't read that shit, but some people will, and they will stay the fuck away when people look clearly out of their depth. So that's actually what I got. Okay. That's the important part.
There is one thing that we don't have to go into, just putting it out there, that there are a lot of places that do Kickstarters, and just as a proof of concept for funding. We're going to do a Kickstarter, and they're only doing it because then they can go to a publisher or an actual investor and say, look at all the people that are interested.
Yeah.
And they can do that they can just take your money. It's
they're
like
they're getting paid for a survey, which you could have gotten paid for if they did it the traditional way. It's just Kickstarter, just like
exactly.
Let me tell you the truth. Let me tell you the real fucking truth of it. Investing in fucking Kickstarter is some real cuck shit. You're getting cucked every single fucking time. I swear to God. I just said that I'm okay with getting cucked, like, by donating for like that one comic, but like at least I know what's happening. I feel like a lot of people think that they're like bucking the big guy, and they're like investing in these projects because like they couldn't secure funding or whatever. They're just helping somebody follow their fucking dream. Nah, you're getting fucking cucked, dude. Like, just God,
yeah.
Just be careful.
If you like getting cooked, then you know what? Go with God.
If you like getting cooked, go with God, or like hit up a dungeon.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Pay an online dom. OnlyFans exist. Fuck me, man. Just I don't know. Be careful, y'all.
Evidence-Based Radio, a weekly science and skepticism show from a feminist and socialist perspective. Every week, we explore the interesting and important stories in science with a focus on the positive. Email questions or requests to evidencebaseradio@gmail.com. You can listen online on your favorite podcatcher or at evidencebasederrata.com. Evidence-Based Radio is a member of the Planetside Podcast Network.
Time for some happy thoughts. Happy. Are you ready, Nicole? So happy. What is happy with your happy today? Okay. Happy.
So,
I don't know. That was a little much.
I'm in a storytelling, so come with me on a journey. It is the year. I don't remember what fucking year it is, but the PS3
already off to a good
was
start.
The latest and greatest console. So like just. I think maybe like 2015. This game called Atelier Totori comes out. And I sit down and I play it. And it's really fun. You play a little like alchemist girl who's like trying to become like a really nice alchemist and like, you know, find her mom, and it's cute. And there's this fucking atrocious time limit that fucking destroys my soul, because every time I walk somewhere or like accidentally pick a goddamn plant that I wasn't supposed to, I fail my monthly requirement to like make things for the goddamn kingdom, and I have to start all over from the fucking first month, and it makes me want to die. But I have a really good time, and it's very cute and aesthetic, and I have a lot of good memories. And that's how I fall in love with the Atelier series. A couple of years later, I play Atelier Maruru, which same experience, and I suddenly remember, oh my god, I've been playing this game way longer than I thought, because I remember, and I played this game called Manakima back in the PS2 days, which was from this very same series. From that very moment, I said, I'm going to follow the Atelier series. But I also had this thought, I fucking hate the time limit. I don't want to play these games anymore. It hurts my feelings, motherfucker. Damn. So I don't. 3 more Atelier games come out. They come in trilogies, and the trilogies are usually really good. And this trilogy is the Dusk series, and it looks nice, but I don't play them because I don't want to be fucking murdered by a time limit. And then it gets to the next trilogy, which I think is the Mysterious trilogy. Anyways, I play that, and it's really good. So, you know, but the Atelier series is about 20-something years old, and it's getting kind of stale, and everybody knows it. The writing's on the wall. And they say, we need to modernize this shit. So then they come out with a game called Atelier Lilua. And that's fucking amazing, because it is a game that I forgot to say, the Mysterious series doesn't have the time limit. It's just cute girls. I mean cute as in like puppy dogs. They're children. Adorable.
Thank you for distinguishing that. That's
also important. Sapphic vibes. Separate. Ooh. It's complicated, okay? Oh god.
Right.
I'm sweating. But anyways, the Mysterious series is really good. And there's sapphic vibes, and it's cute. And we get to Atelier Lilua. Lilua is a installment of the old Arlen series, which is the one that I was talking about in the first place with Totori. So it is the 4th game in the series, and that is no shit like probably not one of my favorite games because I know that it's like flawed in certain ways and it's a little bit archaic, but I just love it very much and I care a lot about the characters. They're very sweet. And that's like probably the most fun that I've had. And it also starts to have little notes of moving the series forward for the first time in a lot of fucking years. So then right after that, this game called Atelier Ryza comes out. And it is a fucking banger. It takes the entire Atelier series, it turns it on its head. It goes from turn-based combat to real-time action combat. It's super fun. There's a lot of different nuances to the exploration, which is great. And the synthesis mechanic is upgraded into a way that like really allows you to go as far as your imagination will take it. Well, last month or the month before, I can't remember, the next game in that series, Atelier Ryza 2, came out, and I started playing that, and it took everything that Ryza did, and it like amped it up to the nth degree. And it is the Atelier game that I always wish that I was playing, even from when I was like a little child, even before I knew what the Atelier series really was, because they called it Manakima, and I did not know it was part of that series because it's a stupid fucking name for a game that is part of a well-established series. So anyways, Atelier Ryza 2 is making me happy, but also just how much the series has evolved and changed over the years, and the fact that I was so lucky as to grow up with it in such a kind of like whimsical way. Very stop and start, but I've always had a great deal of affection for it, and I think that everybody should start playing it. If you're going to start, just play Ryza or the mysterious ones. If you like Pain, Totori's great. Or Rorona. That's what I got. What's making you happy, genre?
If you like Pain, if you like Pain, try this.
Pain, but make it cute.
So my thing is, it's kind of melancholy. I used to play this game called Artemis Spaceship Bridge Simulator. I used to play it all the time. I was part of a role-playing group called the Terran Stellar Navy, and basically we all would play this game. And the game is basically it's a collaborative game. You all have different jobs on a starship, and you have to share information and talk to each other. Someone flies the ship, and whoever's flying the ship can't fire the weapons, so they have to tell the weapons person what to do. And it's really fun. I always really loved it. The role play was getting a whole bunch of people together and actually having ranks and actually having training and it was really involved. I wasn't able to play it after a while because of my physical health, but all the people there are really, really great. And there was this one guy, the only name I know him by is Aramond. He was a commander. He captained a ship called the Horizon, and he's just a generally good guy. And I was thinking about that because he you meet a generally good person, and it's kind of rare and special when you meet people like that. Aramond passed away a few weeks ago, and it really hit the community hard because it just I just got a message out of the blue from a friend that also used to play, and it's Aramond passed away, and I'm like, what? And apparently we don't know what happened. He someone called a wellness check on his house, and he was just gone when people got there. So it was really shocking. It was really, and everybody was talking about how we can honor him in the game, or because he was really, really integral in running it. And me and another guy that used to do audio work for the game said, well, let's put together a tribute to him. So we talked to all the people of the game that were still around. We to give us recordings, anecdotes or funny stories, things like that. We made up like little skits about him and his character in the game, and a couple people even found sound clips because they used to stream the game, so they went back into their VODs and into their YouTube, and they found clips of him like in funny situations. It was really, really cool. So we put all of that together, and I even got like a few people to sing a few parts of this song, "The Parting Glass," which he really liked, and we put all of that together, and we played it during the duty shift, and everybody really, really liked it, and we all thought it was a really good send-off. So that was something that I've been working on for the past couple weeks, and you know, like when you're making something like that, you have to listen to it over and over and over again and make sure that everything sounds good, make sure the leveling's good and everything like that. And I had to, you know, listen to people talking about him over and over again and hear his voice over and over again. And it was hard, but it also, being able to do that made me really glad, because it was some way that I could really put to people like, here is a good person and we should value the good people in our lives. So long story short, too late. It was really fun, and if you go to planetsidepodcast.com, there's a link for the Fleet News Service, and that's where the project went. So if you want to hear that, then just go there and you can hear it.
I'll drink to that and your friends.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And one of the things that he did in the game is like he was always going to the bar for some ale. So good call on that. So anyway, that was it's sad, but it also makes me really happy to be able to do that, and it made everybody happy to hear all the dumb things that he used to say. So with that, thank you so much for listening to I Should Have to Say This. We will have a Kickstarter starting up in a little bit.
I'm a grifter, y'all.
We grift. Oh my god, we're just about to say, okay, so thank you for listening to us. Should Have to Say This. If you want to learn more about today's topic,
you can check out
there's not really any links. You just yeah, you can check out our Kickstarter for potato salad, just one bowl. We need help, $25,000.
Thank you, please.
But for reals though, if you have any thoughts or opinions or comments or anything like that, we want to hear from you. You can email us, saythiscast@gmail.com. You can tweet at us at saythiscast, or send us a DM. You can go to saythiscast.com and listen to past episodes. There you're going to find links of how to subscribe to the podcast if you're just listening on the website. If you would like to support the show, here's where the grift comes in. We have a Patreon. It's different than Kickstarter because you just want to support what we're doing. We're already producing stuff for you. So go to patreon.com/saythiscast, and if you go to different levels, you can hear the episode a day early. And we actually started making little episodes just for patrons. So if you want to hear those, and the first one's really good, then you can go and be a patron and support the show. If you just want to throw us a little cash just to help us with expenses, then you can go to ko-fi.com/saythiscast, and you can help us out with that, because we actually, if you're listening right now, look at the art. It is super new. We got our friend Moosh to make us little characters. Yay! Yeah. People think they're
and you
cute.
can follow him at SimmonsD22 on Twitter.
That's right. This will be in the links. SimmonsD22 on
It's
Twitter,
the only
and
link.
He streams. Well, he streams too on the Twitch. So that would be The Legend of Moosh 21 on Twitch. Nicole, where can we find you online?
You can find me on Twitter at Jack of Three Trades. Those threes in the number, or on Twitch of that same name. I do stream, but not for a little bit. My computer exploded. I'm getting some parts in. It's a whole thing. But I'll be back probably in March, so you fucking be ready. And that's a threat.
I was gonna say, like, look at this thing I'm doing. Like, you better be ready. I will find you.
I will fuck you up. With good content, so come on by.
Anyway, my Twitter is at PressStartLock, and my Twitch is PressStartMorelock. If you want to come by on Fridays at 3 p.m., we do a political chat. If you like this show, you like that show, it'll be really great. So, all of the music we have is by Mustin, M-U-S-T-I-N. If you want to hear more or purchase some of that music, you can go to store.mustinenterprises.com. The art that we have is by our friend Sarah Vaughn and by Moosh, and the links to Moosh will be, like I said, in the description. Vaughn just, wanted us to say thanks, so there you go. I shouldn't have to say this is a member of the Planetside Podcast Network. To learn more, go to planetsidepodcasts.com.
I just really hate how Kickstarters are posed as this thing where you're becoming a donor and you're going to be part of the process. And it's like, really, you just have like zero recourse over anything that happens. It's just, it feels bad in every way possible, except for the way that like maybe a cool thing exists at some point. But it's like there are 1,000 ways that it could exist without like tricking a bunch of people into thinking that they're like doing something cool by like giving you money that you may or may not use well.
It's electronic hustling. It's like they're hucksters.
It's real huckster shit, unironically. Real huckster shit.